I want to talk about something today that a lot of people struggle with, and if we're being honest, we've all asked it at some point. Why does God allow suffering? Not just the small stuff, but the kind of suffering that doesn't make sense. The kind where you sit there and think, I didn't do anything to deserve this. But when we look at the story of Job, we see something deeper. Job wasn't a bad man. He wasn't living reckless. He wasn't out here ignoring God. The Bible says in Job chapter 1, verse 1, that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. So right there, we have to understand something. This was a good man in the sight of the Lord. And not only that, his life reflected it. He had a big family, sons and daughters. He had stability. He had provision. The Bible says in Job chapter 1, verse 3, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East. So everything in his life looked like what we would call blessed. But then, something happens that most people don't realize. This wasn't random. There was a conversation happening, and it wasn't on earth. Satan shows up, and he challenges Job's faith. In Job chapter 1, verses 9 through 10, he says, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about all that he hath on every side? He basically says, of course Job serves you. Look at everything he has. And then he makes a bold claim. Job chapter 1, verse 11, But put forth thine hand now, and he will curse thee to thy face. Take it all away, and he will turn on you. And here's the part that's hard for people to understand. God allowed it. The Bible says in Job chapter 1, verse 12, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Not because Job deserved it, but because God knew something about Job that Satan didn't. So in a moment, everything changes. Job loses his wealth. He loses his servants. He loses his children. Everything. And this is where everything shifts. Because after losing everything, Job didn't turn on God. The Bible says in Job chapter 1, verses 20 through 21, Then Job arose and rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground, and worshipped, and said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In the middle of loss, in the middle of pain, Job still worshipped. So now the question becomes, why does God allow suffering? Because sometimes it's not random. The Bible says in 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 6 through 7, Though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory. Sometimes God is strengthening something in you. But we also have to understand something. Not all suffering is a test from God. The Bible says in Galatians chapter 6, verse 7, Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Sometimes, what we're going through is not because God is testing us. It's because of the choices we've made. And even in suffering, God is still in control. The Bible says in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Even when we don't understand, even when it hurts, God is working. Just keep your eyes on Jesus. You'll be all right. Praying you have a blessed day. Bye for now.